Professor's forbidden temptation with mysterious alien exchange student. The arrival. Dr. Marcus Thorne stood before his quantum physics seminar, chalk dust coating his fingers as he outlined particle wave functions on the board. At 36, he'd perfected the art of hiding behind equations and theory, his life reduced to lectures, research papers, and solitary evenings with his telescope. 3 years since the divorce, 5 years since he'd felt anything approaching genuine connection. The door opened mid-lecture. She entered like starlight made flesh, Xenia Solaran according to the roster adjustment on his desk. The visiting exchange student from Solara IX, a moon system he'd barely heard of in the Lyra constellation. His breath caught as she found a seat in the third row. Her skin held an otherworldly quality, smooth and luminous with subtle violet undertones that seemed to shift as she moved through the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Silver-white hair cascaded past her shoulders, catching light like spun moon beams. Her eyes, unusual amber gold with flecks that seemed to glow faintly, met his with an intelligence that made his carefully prepared lecture suddenly feel inadequate. "Professor Thorne," her voice was melodic, accent unfamiliar. "I apologize for my tardiness. The campus navigation systems are different from what I'm accustomed to." Every student turned to stare. Marcus fumbled his chalk. "Of course. Welcome, Ms. Solaran. We're discussing quantum entanglement and non-local correlation." He tried to regain his professorial composure, but his hands trembled slightly as he returned to the board. She asked questions throughout the remaining hour. Questions so advanced they bordered on theoretical speculation he'd only discussed with senior colleagues. Questions about dimensional phase shifting, dark matter propulsion mechanics, crystalline energy matrices. Her understanding went far beyond any graduate student he'd encountered. When class ended, Marcus found himself deliberately organizing papers, watching from his peripheral vision as other students filed out, casting curious glances at the striking newcomer. Xenia approached his desk, movements graceful and deliberate. "Your research on exotic matter fascinates me, Professor. Perhaps we might discuss it further. I have some unique perspectives that may interest you." Marcus met those luminous eyes and felt something shift inside him, something long dormant stirring to life. My office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 to 5. Her smile was enigmatic. "I'll be there."
Curious connections. Xenia appeared at Marcus's office that Thursday, carrying books that seemed too advanced for any curriculum. The setting sun cast amber light through the window, illuminating dust motes between them as she settled into the worn leather chair across from his desk. "You're wondering about me," she said directly. No preamble. "Everyone does." Marcus set down his pen, abandoning pretense. "Your questions in class suggest knowledge years beyond graduate level. And you're from Solara IX, a moon system I've never encountered in any astronomical database." "We prefer privacy." Her fingers traced patterns on his desk edge, and Marcus noticed her skin seemed slightly warmer than it should be, radiating gentle heat. "But I didn't come to discuss my homeworld, Professor Thorne. I came because you understand loneliness." The observation struck him like a physical blow. "That's presumptuous." "Is it?" Those amber eyes held his. "You arrive before dawn, leave after midnight. You eat lunch alone in your office. You wear your wedding ring on a chain around your neck, hidden under your shirt. A man who lost something irreplaceable." Marcus's hand unconsciously moved to his chest, feeling the gold band beneath fabric. "How could you possibly—" "Because I recognize my own reflection," Xenia interrupted softly. "I lost everything, too. My entire world is dying, Professor Thorne, and I'm the only one who can save it." Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus found himself drawn into Xenia's orbit. She appeared at odd hours, late evenings when he worked alone in the observatory, early mornings when fog still clung to the campus grounds. Each encounter revealed new mysteries. She never ate in public. Her body temperature registered consistently at 40.2 degrees Celsius when she accidentally touched his hand reaching for the same telescope adjustment. And 3 nights ago, he'd found her on the observatory roof at 2 a.m., barefoot despite October's chill, palms pressed flat against the old brass telescope as if communicating with it. "What are you really doing here?" he asked one rain-soaked evening, the observatory empty except for them. Xenia turned from the window, backlit by lightning. "There's something hidden in this building. Something my people sent to Earth 74 years ago, before I was born. A crystalline sphere containing compressed solar energy, the only thing capable of reigniting our dying star." She stepped closer, close enough that Marcus could see faint bioluminescent patterns along her collarbone, like constellations mapped on her skin. "It's hidden in the foundation of this observatory, and I have 40 days before my biology begins irreversible shutdown without it." Her voice cracked slightly. "I'm running out of time, Marcus."
Forbidden closeness. The boundaries dissolved slowly, then all at once. Marcus began staying later at the observatory, ostensibly to help Xenia access restricted areas, to search archives for clues about the sphere's exact location. But the truth was simpler, more dangerous. He craved her presence the way drowning men crave air. One midnight, surrounded by star charts and architectural blueprints spread across the observatory floor, Xenia looked up from her research with exhausted eyes. "Tell me about her," she said quietly. "The woman whose ring you carry." Marcus stiffened. "That's not appropriate." "Nothing about this is appropriate." Xenia moved closer, sitting beside him against the wall. "A professor and his student, alone at midnight, searching for alien artifacts. We passed appropriate weeks ago." He laughed, despite himself, the sound rusty from disuse. "Her name was Jennifer. We met in graduate school, married too young. She wanted adventure, I wanted stability. The divorce was inevitable, but it still felt like failure." "You blame yourself for wanting different things?" "I blame myself for not being enough to make her stay." Xenia's hand found his in the darkness. The touch sent warmth spiraling through him, her natural heat seeping into his perpetually cold fingers. "On my world," she whispered, "we believe every being contains their own universe. Sometimes those universes aren't meant to orbit each other forever. It doesn't diminish their beauty." Marcus turned to face her, close enough to see those luminescent freckles scattered across her cheekbones like stardust. "Is that what we're doing? Orbiting each other?" "I think we're colliding," Xenia breathed. The kiss happened without conscious decision, his hand cupping her face, her fingers threading through his hair. She tasted like ozone and something sweet he couldn't name, her lips impossibly warm against his. When they finally broke apart, faint violet tracings glowed where his hands had touched her skin, fading slowly like afterimages. "This is wrong," Marcus whispered, but made no move to pull away. "You're my student. I could lose everything." "I'm not really your student." Xenia's thumb traced his jawline. "I'm a dying woman from a dying world who found someone who makes me want to stay." They began meeting every night. Marcus would finish his last class, wait until campus quieted, then slip into the observatory where Xenia waited. They'd search for the sphere, but their work increasingly interrupted by stolen kisses, whispered confessions, exploration of each other in the red-tinged darkness of the equipment room. She taught him to read star patterns from her own system, tracing constellations against his bare shoulder, with fingertips that left glowing trails. He taught her what human vulnerability felt like, how to trust someone with your broken pieces, and have them handle them gently. "When we find the sphere," Marcus asked one night, her head resting on his chest, "what happens?" Xenia's silence spoke volumes. The temptation. December arrived with unexpected snow, blanketing Arkwright University in crystalline white. Xenia's condition was deteriorating. Marcus noticed the signs, her skin losing its luminescence, movements becoming slower, more careful, the violet undertones in her complexion fading to ashen gray. She'd been on Earth 53 days. Her biology was beginning to shut down. "We're running out of time," she said one evening,
leaning heavily against the observatory telescope. They'd narrowed the sphere's location to somewhere beneath the building's original foundation, but accessing it required equipment, planning, discretion. Marcus steadied her, alarmed by how cold she felt despite her naturally elevated temperature. "You need rest." "I need the sphere." Her voice carried desperation. "Marcus, my world, there are billions of people depending on me. Children who will never see their seventh season. Artists who will never finish their life's work. My mother died sending me here. I can't let her sacrifice be meaningless." "I know." He held her close, feeling her heartbeat, slightly faster than human, slightly irregular. "I'm not suggesting we give up. I'm suggesting we be smart about this." But fear gnawed at him. They'd grown so close these past weeks that losing her felt like losing himself. Every rational part of his mind screamed this was temporary. She was alien, she had a mission, she would leave. Yet his heart, foolish and desperate, whispered, "What if?" Their physical intimacy had intensified with urgency. In the darkened observatory, pressed against cool telescope metal, Marcus would lose himself in her. The heat of her skin, the way she gasped his name in her melodic accent, the violet glow that suffused her entire body in moments of passion, leaving him traced in temporary bioluminescence, like a map of their connection. "Stay with me," he'd whisper afterward, both of them tangled in his coat on the observatory floor. "Don't go back. We'll find another way to save your world." "There is no other way." Xenia's fingers traced patterns on his chest. "Marcus, my world—"
The choice. Winter solstice arrived with brutal cold and clear skies. Campus stood virtually deserted. Students departed for holiday break, only skeleton security staff remaining. Marcus met Xenia at the observatory at midnight, equipped with tools, blueprints, and a heart full of dread. She looked fragile in the starlight, her once vibrant skin now dull pewter, movements slow and pained, but her eyes still held that fierce determination. "Last chance to walk away," she offered. "This could destroy your career if we're caught." Marcus kissed her instead of answering, pouring everything unsaid into the contact, his fear, his love, his helpless fury at the universe for bringing them together only to tear them apart. They descended through the sub-basement access, navigating decades of dust and forgotten equipment. The sealed chamber lay behind a false wall, exactly where the blueprints indicated. Marcus worked the crowbar while Xenia leaned against the corridor wall, conserving strength. The wall crumbled. Behind it, a small room, untouched since 1947. And there, mounted on a simple pedestal, the sphere. It was smaller than Marcus expected, roughly grapefruit-sized, crystalline structure swirling with captured light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Violet and gold energy spiraled within its depths, beautiful and terrible. Xenia approached it reverently, tears streaming down her face. 74 years. My mother died getting this to Earth, and now I finally... She reached for it, then stopped, turning to Marcus. "If I take this, I leave tonight. The spear will give me enough energy for the journey home, but I have to leave immediately." Marcus felt his heart fracturing. "I know." "And if I don't take it? I die here in 17 days. My world dies. Everything ends." "I know that too." Xenia's luminous eyes searched his face. "Tell me what to do, Marcus. For the first time in my life, I don't know what choice to make." He thought of Jennifer, who'd left him because he wouldn't take risks. Thought of the 3 years he'd spent in emotional hibernation, convinced feeling nothing was safer than feeling everything. Thought of 49 days ago, when a violet-skinned student walked into his classroom and reminded him what it meant to be alive. Take it. Marcus said, his voice breaking. "Take it and save your world. Don't let them die because you found something worth staying for. That's not love. That's selfishness." "And what about us?" "We'll have tonight." He pulled her close, feeling her rapid heartbeat against his chest. "We'll have the memory of this impossible thing we found, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's more than most people ever get." Xenia sobbed against his shoulder. "It's not enough. It'll never be enough." But she took the sphere anyway. The moment her fingers touched it, light exploded through the chamber, violet and gold brilliance that filled every shadow, every crack, every hollow space. The sphere's energy flooded into her, and Marcus watched her transform, skin brightening to radiant amethyst, hair shimmering silver white, those luminescent patterns across her body flaring like galaxies being born. She was breathtaking, and she was leaving. They spent their final hours on the observatory roof, wrapped in his coat, watching stars wheel overhead. Xenia taught him the name of her home star in her native language, a sound like crystal chimes and distant thunder. Marcus gave her his wedding ring, no longer a symbol of failure, but of hope. "Remember me," she whispered as false dawn lightened the eastern horizon. "When you look up at night, remember that somewhere in the Lyra constellation there's a woman who loved you enough to leave." "How could I forget?" Marcus kissed her one last time, tasting salt and starlight. "I know I could feel again. That's not something you recover from." The sunrise painted the sky violet gold, the exact shade swirling in the sphere cradled against her. Xenia stepped back, light beginning to envelop her form. The phase shift beginning. "Marcus," she called as her outline began to blur. "Thank you for reminding me what it means to be alive, not just surviving." Then she was gone, leaving only the faint scent of ozone and the memory of warmth against his skin. Marcus stood alone on the observatory roof as the sun rose fully, tears freezing on his face. His heart ached with the particular pain of right choices that feel wrong. But for the first time in years, he felt whole, broken and healing simultaneously. Somewhere in the Lyra constellation, a dying star would be reborn. And somewhere in Connecticut, a lonely professor learned that love wasn't about possession. It was about letting go. Lessons. Sometimes the deepest love is found in the courage to sacrifice your own happiness for another's survival. True connection transcends time, distance, and even species, leaving indelible marks on the soul that never fade. The most profound human experience is not avoiding pain, but choosing to feel deeply despite knowing loss is inevitable.